The cord, you get tangled in the cord, it just.
That's okay, Jeff, less stress. Less stress,
It is.
that's what we all need.
I think it's close enough to 9:30, we can start the work session and.
Do we record the work session? Is
Oh, we
that-
do, so when Nikki tells me
It's
we're
already
good.
on. I'm ahead of you
She's,
today.
yeah, she's getting ahead of me, I usually forget to look that way to make sure she's ready. And for our work session, our first thing we had was, and the only thing we listed, unless something else comes up, Mr. Majors, all yours.
Well, today is April 1st, and I was gonna go up with some big cockamamie scheme of an April Fool's joke, but I figured I couldn't.
Didn't you guys read the Daily this morning?
Yes, I
I
did.
didn't.
Yeah, I right away I emailed, didn't you guys read the Daily?
I know, I knew it was gonna be April Fool's, but I didn't read it.
Yeah, well, that Calnow's buying the Tiffin Mall, and we're gonna turn that into the Justice Center, and on and on and on, and I'm reading it, I'm thinking it's true. I'm like, what?
Empty water bottle.
You see, I couldn't come up.
Yeah, and then, yeah.
I couldn't come up with anything nearly that creative, so I just decided we'll just do what we started off planning to do. A couple of months ago, I've been on a mission to go out and meet with the townships and the villages, both cities. So it's what I've done, and we only missed a couple, and those will be invited to April 5th as our big meeting. That's coming this Saturday, April 5th at 8 in the morning.
Ken, not to take
Yes, sir.
thunder, but you're doing exactly the mission that this board has set out when we asked you to come on board last May. And that is to find a longer term solution
Yep.
to our EMS issues within the county. And you're doing exactly, my hat's off to you.
I appreciate that. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and throw at you the 25 slides that I've put together that kind of outline that plan. So, and aptly titled The Future of Seneca County EMS.
This is what will be presented Saturday.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
And my clicker's not working now. So, I think I
Nick, you have to click it.
close. Still doesn't work. Red thing works. Got that. Drive every cat in the neighborhood crazy.
Just watch it and Nikki.
Okay, now I think it's working. So the history, a little bit of history, I think we've all covered this. A collaborative agreement started in '78 amongst the townships, villages, and this board, county commissioners, where we provide the equipment and manpower, or equipment and infrastructure, all the stuff. The county provides the bulk of all of that. The local districts, their responsibility in this system is to provide manpower. Over the past several decades, we've been very successful in allocating money and getting the equipment infrastructure up to date. Manpower has not really been able to keep up with us. And there's a lot of reasons for that. Some of it could be because of the state's mandate on the education requirements for EMS. But really, the bottom line is the local districts need to provide manpower, and we're struggling. So the objective, we're going to plot a course for the future and work on that manning. Manning has become a critical need. 4 out of the 7 squads are manned reliably. 3 are out of service most of the time. At least all 12 hours of the daylight hours, they're out of service. So we need to work on that. That is a critical need. We've reached almost 50% out of service. So what we need to do, and when I say we, I mean the elected officials of all the township governments, the village governments, and the county, we need to define how much out of service time is acceptable. If this is okay, then we're barking up the wrong tree, but I don't think it's okay. I think it's dangerous, and also we have to worry about things like refusal to report out of service, because some of our volunteers are proud. They don't want us to know that they're out of service. But at certain times of the day, when a call is made, and that squad doesn't show up, we need to make sure that there's a cause and effect. If they're out of service, we need to know it, and it's not acceptable to not report it. And we need to let the local government officials know that so they can pass that down to their people. Because once again, the manpower is their responsibility. So our objectives are to ensure that all the elected officials of all the townships, villages, understand that it is their responsibility to man that ambulance. And in so doing, we're going to promote the formation of joint ambulance districts to improve the communication, the leadership, and understanding involvement at the local level. Because a lot of these guys, until we started doing these meetings, had no idea what their responsibilities were. So that's why we're here. And at the end of that, the last final objective is we're going to improve the service for every citizen in Seneca County. So the suggestions that we've come up with is just a couple. I don't want to make this confusing, so a couple of them. Multiple joint ambulance districts versus one big county-wide EMS district. A joint ambulance district consists of, and it's right there, one member from each township or village come together once a month. They complete the schedule, they pay the bills, compensate members, they handle any human resource matters that come up. Joint ambulance district, usually 5 to 7 members. I would suggest no more than 9 for span of control, because you don't want to, if you have a meeting with 10 or 15, 20 people in it, you hardly ever get anything done. So the smaller meetings are better than one giant meeting once a month. So that, and there's an example of a joint ambulance district that exists in this county. The village of Bascom, Hopewell, and Loudon townships form up the Bascom Joint Ambulance District. And that's been in place since about 2001. And that's the thing you've been reading about in the paper where we call it the Bascom model. The Bascom model is nothing more than a joint ambulance district that's been around in this state probably for 30 or 40 years. And in this county, we've had it since '01. They've been very successful. What I mean by that is the average township ambulance, I'll use Republic as an example, all the way on the other side of the county. Republic has 6, 7, 8 volunteers. Bascom has 30 plus with people on a waiting list. So to me, that stands out as whatever they're doing, we need to look at that and maybe follow suit with it. So that's my plan. So how that works, there's a board member from Hopewell, a board member from Loudon, a board member from Bascom. I can give you their names. They'll be at the meeting on the 5th. And a fiscal officer. They meet once a month and they review, they approve the schedule, make sure everybody's getting fair and equitable treatment on the schedule. It takes minutes because the coordinators do most of the work. These guys approve it. They pay the bills just like we do here. They handle payroll, fiscal officer, and they discuss personnel and the operations of the squad. And that's what they do. Their meetings take about an hour, once a month. And that's how it works. So my suggestion is if we've already got Bascom Joint, okay, we've got, how about AVR over in the east? We've got Attica, Venice, and Reed townships over in the east. We've got Reed Township here, Attica here in the center, and well, Attica here, and then Venice Township down here. It already exists as a fire district. So what we could do is one member from Attica Village, one member from Venice, one member from Reed, and a fiscal officer. You got another joint ambulance district, or you could even increase that by 2 and add Bloom and Bloom Township. So instead of having a board of 3 and a fiscal officer, you have a board of 5 and a fiscal officer. Still inside the span of control, still able to be dealt with, and they're relatively local to one another. We could even call it the Southeastern Seneca Joint Ambulance District. If you want to, doesn't matter, names are hypothetical. But it's a 5-member board, and they'll be responsible for, instead of 1 squad, 2. I don't think that's too much because Bascom currently is running 2 squads right now. Unofficially, they have a Bascom Squad 1 and a Bascom Squad 2. This would just be Bloomville and Attica squads, governed by the board of the Southeastern Seneca Joint Ambulance District, which I'm sure if we actually impose that, would be easier to say after a while. So, and then at the top part of the eastern side of the county, Pleasant, Green Springs, and Adams. The village of Green Springs up here, and you got Pleasant Township, you got Adams Township. Bring all those guys together, or maybe even, Adams, Pleasant, Green Springs fiscal officer. Call that the Northeastern Seneca, and we could also join in Republic and Scipio on into that. Still be a board of 5. 2 districts on the eastern side of the county. The Northeastern Seneca Ambulance District and the Southeastern Seneca Joint Ambulance District. Seems like I'm following a theme here. Now, what if Liberty Township and Bettsville, Village of Bettsville joined an existing district? And Jackson Township also. Jackson out here to the westernmost edge, Liberty Township, and the Village of Bettsville itself. What if they joined up with the Bascom Joint Ambulance District? which you can do, I actually checked that with the prosecutor. You're allowed to join an existing district at this current millage. Don't have to go to the voters. You can just join. If Bascom Joint Ambulance District would allow it, and I think they will, we have talked to them. And we'd have to rename the district. If Jackson joins, part of the millage that is brought in from that could be used to pay their contract to the city of Tiffin that currently exists. So the millage could be split and go either way, wherever you need it. You need it to pay for your personnel here in your district that you formed, or if you have an existing contract, you can use the millage to pay that. And Derek has good information on this. And the handout that I gave you, that I can make sure I give one to everybody that is interested. This came from a PowerPoint presentation that was done at the Ohio Chiefs this past summer, or winter, I'm sorry, their winter conference. And it explains the formation of joint ambulance, joint EMS, joint fire, and combination districts. And it's got all the big lingo, ORC, blah, 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 stuff that only lawyers really know. But it explains it all step by step, and that's why I have that. So really what we're looking at is Seneca County EMS providing ambulance service with 4 joint ambulance districts within our county. That is the definition of shared services. I think that's what the governor is talking about. If we do this, we're doing what he's asking us to do. The county's part in it will continue to provide EMS equipment, medical oversight, protocols, supplies, fuel, medical billing, and training. All the stuff that is really what I do. And let me tell you, it's not easy to do, but it's something we can do, and this is how it's done. The EMS director, me, supplied by the county, an assistant EMS director. We're going through a reorganization right now. We're going to hire an assistant EMS director. The primary responsibility going to be clerical and billing, but there'll also be a paramedic and be able to respond to emergencies and support the operation. My job will still be to attend all district meetings. So instead of having to go to 7 different meetings a month, which is a pain, I've been doing 22 in the past 2 months, so 7 meetings a month would be decreased to 4 meetings a month, which would still hit all the squads because the 4 districts would still govern all 7 squads. District squad coordinators, which we currently have, will attend my county meeting and the district meetings. So they'll only go to 2 meetings a month. They'll go to their meeting and they'll go to my meeting. And that should provide a heck of a lot more streamlined leadership team, local level, and maintain an acceptable span of control throughout the county. And span of control is terminology that we use from the fire service, but really it just means you don't have something so big you can't handle it. So that's really what it's about. Funding and cost of this really kind of depends, and that's why it's not an easy question. It depends on what we need to be successful. Bascom currently has a 1.2 mil that's valued on 2001 property tax valuation. That is enough to provide compensation to their volunteers at $3.50 an hour for on-call compensation. It's not a wage. It's not minimum wage. It's defined by the Department of Labor right there as a nominal fee. And how they, through all this mumbo jumbo, there's a lot of words on the screen, what that says is it basically is the same way that they pay a high school like track coach or football coach. They can't afford to hire a guy who just does that. So they pay him 20% of what they would pay a normal coach, less than 20% of that. And they just tack it on to his already having teacher salary, and he's a volunteer football coach. So in this example, they're saying at $3,700 a year, they pay a high school custodian extra money to be a football coach, or track coach, or lacrosse coach, or whatever sport you like. And that's the Department of Labor's ruling on that. There's a book about that thick from the Department of Labor that talks about compensation of volunteers. A lot of states do it real complicated. I think we do it real simple, and Bascom Joint Ambulance District has a lot of knowledge there, and I'm glad they'll be at the meeting on the 5th because I think they can really share with us how they do it. Essentially, they pay their guys $3.50 an hour all the time that they're on the schedule, whether they're on a run, whether they're not on a run. 6 holidays out of the year, they bump them up to $5 an hour. There is no overtime. There's no benefits, nothing else. And they 1099 them all at the end of the year for tax purposes. And that's how it works. You make more than 600 bucks, you get a 1099. So same thing happens at a casino, but I've never won anything, so I don't have to worry about that. So local EMS crew that I'm looking for will be a basic EMT crew, and that'll take advantage of the Echo paramedics that the county has maintained, and we maintain them at 12 hours a day. Sometime in the future, if this thing gets rolling, I'd like to see it be done at 24 hours per day because I believe it would be beneficial. That's my only point in here that would cost any more money. And I think we all agree that the value of the Echo unit is definitely there. So our county budget currently, we have $500,000 budget, hit or miss, plus minus. Approximately $300,000 of that comes from EMS billing. The remainder comes right out of general fund and any grants we can get. And we have been successful with grants, but grant money ain't like it used to be. It has dwindled. But Seneca County doesn't want to be involved in these districts as far as the funding. I wanted to put that in there to make sure people know that the county's not out there asking the townships to give them money, because that's not what we're doing. We're asking the townships, the districts that they form, to pay the personnel in their own community. None of that money would come through the county. It would never hit the county coffers. It would never see the auditor's office. It's taken care of at their own local level. Their money, their people, their ambulances. So the cost currently, if we use the districts that I just described, those would be the millages that are created without changing anything. You know, Adams, Pleasant, and Green Springs have an ambulance sitting in Green Springs, and it would take 0.78 of a mil to create $60,000 annually. $60,000 annually, if you do the rough and dirty math, $3 an hour times two, times 24, times 7, times 365 equals $60,000. And that's as rough a math as you can get. Where it gets expensive, though, that wouldn't be too bad. For Adams, Pleasant, and Green Springs, probably costs average homeowner about $50 a year on a $100,000 home. But in Bloom and Bloom Township, to get the same 60, you got to levy a millage of 1.95, and then that's starting to get upwards of $70. So $70 on a $100,000 home valuation. So, and the other ones are kind of in the middle of that. The cheapest one would be Jackson, Liberty, Bettsville. The most expensive would be Bloom and Bloom Township. And really, that's only getting you 60 grand. So I think you don't have to be a real mathematician to know the further out we spread this over the larger district, the less those numbers will be. So there's the numbers. Bloom and Bloomville would pay $68.50. Whereas the cheapest one would be $26.95 a year on a $100,000 home.
Ken, I hate to interrupt here, but that's based on if we continue with the 7 squads.
7 squads at the exact same districts with no formation of any joint district.
Did you,
Yes.
okay, I'm steady out there, I'm sorry.
It's coming. Nope, you're right on time with that. So these numbers, if larger districts are created that contain more than one ambulance, the cost will be spread over a large area and make the taxpayers a little bit less of a hit to them. These were the ones we used because they're currently in place. That's the only reason I used them. There's 100,000 different ways we could have looked at it, and I didn't want to overburden the auditor's office asking them through all these hypotheticals until we know what we want to do. There is a 1 mil estimate for townships and villages on the current tax data. If we just put 1 mil across the board, and that's all 15 townships. Well, I don't think it is all 15, but it's Adams, Green Springs, the village of Big Springs, New Riggle Village, all of those. If they all kind of come together, and I guarantee you not everybody on there is going to agree to this, but 1 mil would create $620,000 a year. More than what we need, so it wouldn't even need to be that much. My estimation, if we form 4 township districts, 4 joint ambulance districts as we listed there, we would need approximately $450,000 a year combined. So all 4 of them would need to generate about $115,000 each. And that would work to do it. And it depends on how many squads are in the district. If you need 60 for each squad, you're gonna need 120 for 2, or 180 for 3, you know, so it's always good to have a little extra in case you realize you need personnel. You may want to uniform these personnel, you may want them to wear the same clothes. Those kind of things can be purchased out of township money. There's a lot of different things you could do with it. You could go super cheap and pay them $1 an hour and see how many you get. There's 1,000 different ways to go in. What I showed you today, and that is all I have, what I showed you today is what is currently working in Bascom. It's $3.50 an hour, times 2, all the time. Works, without a doubt. We've proven it. They're never out of service. They never hit the out of service schedule. Everybody else does.
2 questions, Ken, is, and I realize there's just 1,000 different scenarios, and quite frankly, I think you've done a tremendous job of outlining this, and my hat's off to you if I had one. I just would like to look at the actual cost that we did the 4, if they did the 4 districts versus the 7. Because that would spread it out, and maybe Bloom Township and so forth, that would lower that cost a little bit, at least to have that as a slide there. The next question is, if they did a 4 squad system, would the county still have to supply 7 ambulances? Or would it go down to 4 ambulances so that we could take that money that we're having now divided into 4 versus divided into 7? Have a more, keep a more modern crew or more modern equipment up? Would that?
Right, I know, I think I understand your question, but, and really what I'm trying to do is continue with the 7 squads, but have 4 districts that govern those 7 squads. So that's kind of what I put together here, is providing 4 joint ambulance districts. So the joint ambulance district of Attica, Venice, and Reed, add Bloom and Bloom Township. 5 entities, 2 municipalities, and 2 townships, 3 townships, would have 2 squads. One would be in Attica, one would be in Bloomville. Over time, and I live in Bloomville, but over time, I think they'll understand it costs a lot more money to maintain 2 than it does 1. And over time, we'll realize that there's only 80 runs a year per 160 runs could be managed by 1 ambulance, centrally located, which would be up to the district to do that. But, you know, and speaking from the way that, I'm speaking with history here. Historically, the county has always provided for 7 ambulances. If we only had 4, would we provide better? Probably. We would be able to replace the squads every 4 years instead of every 7. We would be, buy a new ambulance, buy new equipment. The money would go a lot further because we already are in the hole, you know. So the answer to your question is yeah, but I'm not sure how we want to make that decision. I think the elected officials should take an active role in making those decisions. I can tell you how to deploy them and operationally how to use them and where they need to be. Could we do it with 4? Of course we could.
I guess what you're saying is just a way of easing into it, and that ultimate decision is down the road, and that will be made by that district.
Yes, and the interesting thing is, what we're trying to do is use shared services in the local community to get the most bang for the buck out of the money that the government can give us. Whether that's taxpayer money or grant money, whatever it is. However, people that live within the community would be more than happy to volunteer for their own ambulance. You giving them $3.50 an hour as a compensatory fee. On the other hand, if I live in Bloomville, I'm not going to go trekking across and sit over in Bettsville for $3.50 an hour, because to me that's a job. If I got to leave my house and leave the homestead and go over there and get dressed up and go sit at a station, it costs a little bit more for me to do that than if I can be at home mowing my grass, carrying a pager. The pager goes off, I go, ooh, I got to go on an ambulance run. I just got in the car and I go up to the station, 5 minutes, I'm on a run. It's still about community service. It's still about volunteers. We're not replacing them. What we want to do is compensate them and enjoy the fruits of that by having more people be involved.
And the training they have to go through and keep, maintain, it's not get trained once and never go back to training in 10 years.
Right.
They gotta continue to do that. I can totally understand
Yeah.
that this might be the motivator. to
I
make
think so.
this-
It seems to be. Years ago, I would have never believed it, but after seeing what Bascom's done, the proof's there. Bascom is a success story when it comes to the formation of joint ambulance districts and making them work. They're right here in our county. I think we should learn from that and maybe go with it. And there is a way that people can join, any township in the county, village in the county can join the existing joint ambulance district of Bascom Joint Ambulance. And that would be an easy way to do it. And I hope that there's some people that decide that that's the way to do it, because that would make it smooth.
Yeah, but then the downfall of that is they would have to take up the millage, what Bascom currently has, where the majority of the townships that you outline would have less millage than what Bascom currently has.
Right, but also we got to remember, and I think that's a great question for Julie, is the current valuations of the Bascom joint is based on 2001 property values. So I don't know if property values were higher then or less than that, you know what I mean? So it would hit everybody with a 2001 valuation, not the 2014 valuation.
Julie's working on that one.
And she is working on that, and we should probably have that by Saturday for follow-on. But the way I look at it is, I just don't want it to get so big that it's hard to manage. I don't want to go to a meeting with 17 elected officials and nobody can even decide what we're going to have for coffee. We've all been in those committees where it just gets big. So I think 5 to 7, maybe no more than 9 would be awesome. It gets too big, it gets unwieldy.
And the research you've done and by putting this together and so forth, I think will give them just a lot of sound information as we hope there's a lot of dialogue on Saturday.
Yeah.
That's what I'm
For
hoping
them
for, and that's why I
to
looked
have
at the
looked at
clock.
that, you know.
It takes me 20 minutes to do
Yeah.
this, then we'll have those guys that can talk. I think what we need to do, and my objective here is to come out of this with a course for the future. Just, all I need some direction, which way you want me to go, and we'll make it happen.
A very good presentation. I think that's kind of what we want to hit on. Just 2 general comments. And I think this was first one was brought out pretty well on the slides, but we need to continue to emphasize that we can't create those districts.
No.
We can't force anybody to create those districts. That decision is going to have to be made at the township and village level if it's actually done. So we're not here, that's what I'm going to say if I get the chance, we're not here to force you to make a district. If you feel that's in your best interest, then you should, but this isn't acceptable the way we're going now. Pretty soon, we aren't going to have an ambulance come to your house when it's appropriate.
My most important thing I want to make sure that I recognize is that our goal is to make sure that 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, whoever you are, wherever you live in Seneca County, you dial 911, you get the same sort of service everywhere you are. You shouldn't say, well, if I'm in Bettsville, it takes me an hour and a half to get an ambulance, but if I'm in Tiffin, I can get one in 10. I think we should have, we should make sure that we can provide that service. And what we need to do is, I think our leadership team, which includes the townships and the villages, is how much out of service time is acceptable, and what do we do with the folks that refuse to report? Because if we have to make hard decisions. That's why leadership is not as easy as it looks.
And a second thought, and I might disagree with Mr. Zoller just a little bit on this, emphasizing the money. I think if we convince, if you get township A, B, and C to join together for a joint district, and now this joint district's their entire focus is how do we get volunteers, let them figure out that they need to raise a millage, or maybe they've got a great they come up with a great program of going to the local high schools and talking to the seniors, or give them free maple syrup or something. They may come up with all sorts of things. Emphasizing the money
In a different way.
might be a little,
I think
we're pushing the money
right.
on them. You know, we want you to form this district, A, B, and C here, and whatever you come up with to get us volunteers is great.
We'll show them the path, they gotta walk it.
It's gonna take money, most likely, but
Which I would
I don't
think,
wanna twist
I
it
would
around.
think you're very likely to have with different districts versus everybody in one large for the other reasons you stated, but you might have one part of the county that'll say, well, we have been doing some things to raise money for whatever expenses we have, and we're gonna go that route, or we're gonna go that route for a year before we would consider whether we want the
And New Riddle does
millage.
that currently, but what my hope and dream for this is, if we can get these districts formed, and these local elected officials can get in the same room once a month and talk about nothing but EMS. EMS is the agenda, not a tag item on an agenda, but the agenda. After about 6 of those meetings, where there's nobody showing up except them, they're gonna go, what are we doing? We need to do something. And whatever that they come to is gonna be better than what they're doing now.
Yeah,
Because right now, they're not even having those meetings.
right.
That's my goal. Get them together, get them organized, get the leadership team speaking to each other, and let them decide what their course for the future is. All I'm doing is showing them what works.
Good.
Half an hour.
Half an hour, right on time.
Perfect. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you, good job. And hopefully lots of discussions.
We're having a lot of people Saturday, and we promised donuts. Who's in charge of picking up donuts?
We'll get
I
them.
made sure that my old 1958 Army coffee pot still worked at the EMA building. It does. It makes great coffee.
I'll make sure I get donuts.
Okay, you're talking several dozen. I don't know if you let the bake shop know ahead of time or something.
Yeah, probably ought to call them
Okay.
on Friday and get your order in.
Thank you very much.
Or actually, I would, yeah. All right. I guess we will move on to our regular agenda. I'd like to call the meeting to order for Tuesday, April 1st. Please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Like church.
Pledge
allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Commissioner Stacy? Mr. Zoller?
Here.
Commissioner Reicher?
I'm here.
The signing of the journal, and I'd accept the motion to approve the DVD recording of the previous session, which was on Thursday, March 27th, so Tuesday, March 27th, and the index for that meeting.
I'll make the motion.
Second.
Been moved in second, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Approved, thank you. Are there any adjustments to the agenda, anything anybody wants to list under old or new business to add, aside from our huge list of of resolutions here? Nothing? Anything? Okay. Seeing no old business, and no one seems to have any old business to bring up, we'll move right into new business. And we have the bill vouchers.
Yep.
And take it.
Bill vouchers 38 to 41. I have the supplement to the permanent appropriations for the Law Library Resources Board Fund 032, putting $1,600 into contract services. I have a resolution authorizing a fund advance repayment from the Highway Safety Grant Fund 197 to the general fund. This would be advance payback of $8,000 from the Highway Safety Grant to the general fund. And I have a resolution approving the subordination request for Dean Frisch for the CHIP program in the amount of $37,465. And I think that's all I have.
I move we approve.
Seconded.
The motion and a second to approve the resolutions and bill vouchers as stated. Any questions, comments, concerns? Okay, roll call, please.
Commissioner Wagner?
Yes.
Commissioner Zoller?
Yes.
Commissioner Stacy?
Yes. On the approved. Public comments, the fastest meeting ever. Not that you're pressure. Mr. Burnwell.
Yes, I do have one. Last Wednesday, when the ground was froze, I decided to drive out to the cemetery, the county cemetery. I got out there, got to the back of the buildings, and the lane is blocked off. For the winter, the sign was up. You're probably aware of that. I wasn't. I was upset with that. I went back out yesterday and I walked back there. And the cemetery looks great. I mean, it's great. Everything is beautiful. But apparently, our farmer friend, when he was taking corn out of those fields, basically ruined that lane. I don't know if you're aware of it or not, but he's got ruts. I'm assuming it's from him, because they're wide, dual wheels. It's very deep. If and when the gate or the barricade comes down, and somebody tries to drive back there, if they try to drive in those tracks, they won't be able to. Their car won't make it. There
You're
needs
talking the roadway? The roadway is
The
where the
main
roads
roadway
are.
all the way back. He's got 2 ruts, with wheel.
I don't think it
2/3 of
was
the
the
way
farmer.
back.
Yeah, I
It
brought
was-
this up at one meeting, I don't think you were here that meeting
Okay.
evidently. Dean had told me somebody went back there, must have been last fall, and got stuck. And the wrecker wouldn't go back and get them because
It's too
it was
soft.
gonna get stuck too, but eventually he must have done that. And the farmer actually called me and said, I'm afraid somebody's gonna think I made these ruts. And, he actually didn't, he might have used it after that, I'm not sure. But at the time we talked about it, Dean was gonna block it off for the winter because of people getting stuck. And we were going to try and get, Mark offered some fill if we would clean some of the spots out. He didn't wanna put it in the mud because it would defeat the purpose.
Right.
But if we clean out the bad spots, he offered us some of the fill that he has over there at the, I suppose it's getting time of the year we ought to think about doing that.
Yeah,
But I did bring that up, somebody got stuck and that's
I
when they
didn't know
closed
that. I
it.
didn't know that, yeah.
Chris did call me and he may have used it after that, but he wanted to
Well-
make sure that we knew he didn't
It
make
was a
those.
vehicle with very large wheels
Yeah.
that done it all the way, 2/3 of the way back.
Yeah,
And it's now, to be open now, or when it dries off, if they would go out and barricade so that people can't drive in the tracks, drive on this side or the right side of the grassy area, they could do it, you could drive back. But if they drove in them tracks with the car, I'm afraid they wouldn't make it, because it's so deep, it should drag.
yeah.
And I know a woman that went back there, put flowers on that one grave. And I was thinking, I think she drove a PT Cruiser, and I thought, if she tries to go back there, she won't make it.
Is she able to walk from the parking
No.
lot? She's not.
Could we have Mark just with a grader, go back there and just,
He
I
was
don't know
not,
if
he was not open to that suggestion.
what other recourse do we have as a county?
We've got a loader, don't we have
Yeah.
a bucket? A
on
loader
the tractor.
on the
Yeah.
tractor?
That our maintenance people could use?
Let our maintenance kind of scoop out the muddy spots and then put stone in it.
Oh, it's more than just a muddy spots, Jeff. It's 2/3 of the length of that lane. You're talking
Hmm.
a lot of whatevers. I was so disappointed when I seen that.
I guess,
I think the best thing right now would be if you could get fill, stone, and pour in those tracks. It's probably that deep. Both sides, all the way back, or 2/3 of the way back. To grade it, you're gonna ruin the grass, and grass helps to make it drivable when,
Yeah, it's a little wet.
you know, I hate to see it graded.
Yeah.
I don't know, but
yeah.
something needs to be done.
He wasn't open to using a lot of his equipment back there, but he did offer the stone. How we get it in the ruts, I'm not just sure.
They can use
Well,
their
can't they-
bucket
If the
and-
guys can shovel it off into the
Yeah, we got
ruts.
the demons.
You're talking shovel, and you're talking a lot. As far as the guys doing it with the tractor, it's too big for that. It's more than what they could do. You would take days and days to do that. But a truck could tailgate that with the center. After it gets a little drier, they couldn't do it now, it's too wet now. But they could tailgate that.
Okay.
I mean,
Tailgate the two ruts.
the 2 ruts. And there's one hole, which is larger, but
he might be open to that. Originally, when I suggested that, he thought it would mix in with the mud, and then he didn't want to waste his aggregate, which he uses for all his projects. We'll have to ask him what he's open to, I guess.
Yeah.
I'd rather use his free aggregate than buy some.
Well, I was thinking about something. What about, can't say the word now, the stone that you use in the concrete?
Recycled?
Recycled. Is that something that could be, is that a,
We don't have a pile of stone, the
well,
commissioners
I know.
don't.
Yeah.
Oh, use recycled material?
Yeah, is that something that?
We would still have to purchase it. We just,
Yeah.
last meeting authorized bidding for parking
Parking
lots
lots.
is gonna cost $150,000 out of recycled material. Pretty well shoots our recycled money.
Well, I don't know, I was just thinking of that, but, because something needs to be done. It's terrible the way it is. All the years I've been going back, and I've been going back a lot.
The muddy fall last year.
I'll talk to Mark and I'll see what he's got materials and what he's thinking.
You say you
Talk
talked to
about
him?
that, yeah.
Okay, good.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Thank
Anything else for the general public, citizens' comments? Are we ready? If not, motion to adjourn?
I move.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
We stand adjourned, thank you.
8 o'clock.